Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Bearded Men of Real Estate Show. I'm Ray. Say hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
This is Dan, and we are both bearded real estate agents, which make us the perfect host for a show called the Bearded Men of Real Estate. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. Yay! So, if you are joining us live, I should say that you can comment, and then we can talk about you or your comment. And I am getting some comments on some of the posts that we've shared. So if you are watching this live, be sure you click on the original post that way you could comment, and I can display it just like Melissa Mara. This is the clutch light. There it is right there.
Best band ever. Right there.
Thanks for joining the show, Melissa.
Hey, by the way, if you're watching us live on YouTube, because we are streaming there as well, give us a comment over on YouTube, because they will display here. We use what's called StreamYard, and it pulls the comments from everywhere we're streaming. So feel free to comment there. Don't be shy. If you're a lurker on YouTube, that's okay.
That's okay.
But just know that we know.
We know.
And
you could comment, and we'll know even more. I will have to say, though, I got a comment from someone last week that was like, "Oh my gosh, guys, get to the show. I'm tired of listening to Wendy from Tucson."
I know, but we love Wendy.
I don't know. Do we have a Wendy from Tucson? I don't think we do, but it was hilarious.
Yeah,
hilarious comment. So I do appreciate all the comments on the show, even after the show. I will post in the description and in the comment section of the show a breakdown of everything we cover. I mean, at the first part of the show today, we're going to be talking about Zillow 1 week after their big announcement as they became a brokerage. We're going to break down 3 specific articles that I have. One from a guy who used to work for Zillow, kind of talks about how his opinion on it has changed, or has it. And we're going to talk about the Notorious R.O.B. He had a really good blog post on it that Katie Day gave me, actually. So shout out to Katie Day. Thank you. She's in Houston. Thank you so much for sending that to me. And so we're going to talk about the industry reaction to the Zillow announcement of a real estate brokerage.
And I don't know if we can say this, but there's a thing going on right now.
We have some there's 2 insider bits of information that we have. And so we're going to talk about those 2 bits of insider information. One was given to me anonymously via phone call this last week, and the other was something we were invited to. I don't think it's anonymous, but it is a bit of insider information to the moves they may be making.
Right. And also a lot of people may have gotten the invite, but just ignored it. But when you watch it,
it's interesting. Very interesting. Hey, there's Dusty. Dusty Martin says, "Hey, made a live stream the first time in a month." Good. Melissa Marr said, I am just standing in line at Starbucks watching you guys. Perfect.
It's the best way to do it.
Be sure to listen for your name. Don't make somebody mad. Okay. We also have some real estate news. So new home sales are crushing expectations. Supply may be running out. That's one of the headlines. We're going to talk about mortgage demand, how it's falling. So does that mean that supply is going to continue to be a shortage because now mortgage demand is falling, so fewer people are buying a house? And we're going to talk about some news that came out. What was it? Was it yesterday or today that this came out? August pending home sales soar to a record high. So we're going to talk about those articles and kind of what they mean for the industry. And I will have those in the description of the YouTube video so that you could just click on it and then zoom right to that part of the show. So you
don't have to. There's 2 things that happen. We timestamp them so you can click it. You don't have to listen to Wendy from Tucson.
Right.
But also, we do every week. We do what we call BMORE Chops. So that's going to be a couple different highlights of the show. That's just Ray and I ranting about that hot subject for the week. And last week's was obviously about the big news that Zillow announced its opening brokerages after they said they wouldn't.
Like 20 minutes.
But if you just want that, they're usually 8. Last week's, I think, was 18 minutes, but it was a big topic.
Yeah, normally it's a lot shorter. Normally it's going to be from 5 to 10 minutes. We're going to read through the article and then kind of talk about that with the people that are commenting. And then we also redistribute that on Facebook and the YouTubes and all that stuff. So that's called BMORE Chops. And there's a specific playlist if you're watching this on YouTube for BMORE Chops. So I'll try to link that up in the comments too.
And we know how much you guys love just seeing us, because what do I always say? It's always about just Ray and I, and that's just Ray and I. So.
And please do share the show if you find value in what we talk about in the news articles that we talk about. And if you find it helpful in any way, please do share it. I can't mention to share it or else everything gets tamped down. So and see, I'm getting another comment right now on one of our posts on Facebook that is not showing up because they didn't click on the original show that you're watching right now, and then I can display your comment. So
yeah. So if you're watching it from one of our shares,
yes,
click on the original and make sure you're commenting on.
So, and thanks so much for everyone who shared it. Dan, before we get into these headlines, will you tell people what BMORE is actually all about?
You know, I would love to. Now, when Ray and I met about 3 years ago, more than 3 years ago, here on the interwebs, I had an idea for a show because I am in fact a fabulously bearded man of real estate. And when I met Ray, I noticed something very interesting about him.
Oh, Dan?
He used to be a professional skateboarder.
Well, not pro. It was amateur. I did wear the airwalks, the baggy pants, and I was quite the skater in the day. Yeah.
Okay, just a side note, during our intro, my cat is in some tinfoil. Just FYI.
I also used to have long hair that was shaved underneath.
Oh, like that.
Yeah, just like that, actually.
So I do that every week, just guessing or messing with Ray a little bit. And usually there's a part truth. Like last week I said he hates ceiling fans. He goes, you know what? I don't have any ceiling fans in my
ceiling fan.
So anyway, no, he had a layout for the show, and it's the same layout, same format we do today. But what I also noticed is he loves giving value up front, just like I do. So this show is more about being more as an agent, but also being more as a human.
Yeah, and one of the side benefits to watching the show that we notice every week is that we will have occasions to mention some of these articles to our clients. They want to know that we know what is going on, even cats. They want to know that we know exactly what's happening in the marketplace. And if we can share with them what August pending home sales are doing and home prices are doing and what the inventory is nationwide, and then kind of start to boil it down to them and how it affects them and their neighborhood, then everything starts to make a little bit more sense when we're suggesting the pricing strategy that we're suggesting or the marketing strategy that we're suggesting. So, and in this day, in order to compete with a giant in the industry, if you have to compete with them, it is more important than ever to know exactly what's going on. I'd also want to mention let's get into the headlines, and then I can mention possibly the biggest news story of the day.
Well, I was just going to say, and why go through all that trouble to research all these news stories and read them and learn about them when we do it for you? Just watch us every week.
The show. Make it very easy.
We got you.
You ready for this? Oh, you froze right there. All right, you ready? All right, here we go. Now you're back.
Yep.
Also, if you're watching the BMORE Chops, you're going to notice at the beginning of it is an homage to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. That's all I'm going to say.
We have lots of
inventory is still so rough here. Yep, it is. We're going to get into some of those details.
Yeah.
Possibly, if you've been watching Facebook, then you know exactly what is happening in the industry. One of the biggest announcements of the week came when Tim Macy, hashtag whiteboxing of the Tim Macy show, said that he's changing brokerages. What?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's what he meant. And that was his how do you say it? His sneaky comment in our group.
Yes, totally. So what is interesting is I know for a fact that means that the EXP stock price is going to it's up. It's up today, actually.
Well, they haven't. When the full effects of Tim Macy of the Tim Macy show and hashtag whiteboxing, when they fully grasp what has happened and what they've let leave, it'll plummet.
Yes, it will plummet. I mean, he just made the announcement today, so I'm sure it will go down, Tim. Somebody needs to tag Tim. Let him know I'm talking about him.
Where did he go?
On your move, Tim. Reels. It's a new thing. You got to check it out.
Dude,
Jeremy Knight is on it. Jeremy Knight's on it.
I thought he was going to Pixel.
Well, eventually, once we're there, I'm sure they'll come over.
And I'm going to leave Remax and go to Pixel once you open up in California.
Heck yeah, let's do it.
Sorry, Chris. I love you guys, but dude, Pixel.
Well, Chris should just start a Pixel. Michelle Schroeder said, we have less than 2 months inventory here in St. Louis. Yes, check in. If you're a real estate agent watching, how much inventory do you have? Michelle said the same thing that Dan did. What is he going? Where's he going? Is he coming to Pixel? Almost. All right, so let's get into this. Let's get into this headline. Let me share the screen here. I'm going to put up first. We're going to talk about the Notorious R.O.B. So last week, Zillow announced that they launched a brokerage. We announced that live on our show, and as we were covering the article, it was literally changing. That's how fresh the news was. At first, the headline said, if you recall, Zillow launching a brokerage. Then after the headline refreshed, it was Zillow launching a brokerage to help its iBuyers. So now we have Zillow launching a brokerage to help its iBuyers, and we have our industry reaction. This is from the Notorious R.O.B.
And remember how it just so eloquently and smoothly got rid of that $300 million loss?
Yeah, that was really interesting. I've got to figure out how that happens. My insider has a little bit of information on that, but I have to figure out how they're configuring the numbers there. Okay, so Notorious R.O.B. If you haven't checked out his website, it's notorious-rob.com. He's got a really good point of view on stuff. I like it because he looks at things differently. So he does go into the real deal. He kind of announces what's happening, and then he says, let's get into it. Zillow is our competition. By far the biggest outcrier for those who claim that Zillow is a direct competitor to brokers and agents. Most of them have been saying that for years when Zillow wasn't a direct competitor, but sure, let's go with that idea now. So I love his style of writing. He's also got the message from Errol Samuelson that we talked about last week too, that I encourage you to watch. I can't play it or else we'll probably be taken down for copyright violation. But anyway, he goes into more of the details from the real deal. Most people have said, and this is his own comments, most people have said that Zillow has now become Redfin, which some of you guys said in the comments last week. Right. He says, I think this is imprecise. Zillow has become what Open Door was prior to becoming a full-blown list with Open Door Brokerage, which I imagine has a very short shelf life given Open Door's recent merger with Social Capital. All right, so let me take out his parenthetical statement and just read the sentence. Zillow has become what Open Door was, a market maker who uses its own licensed agents to do its own FSBO in the industry is for sale by owner / direct purchase business. Right. So he's putting in maybe into more context that Zillow is not trying to be a Redfin, that they are trying to be more of an Open Door. Which, what do you think? I would agree with that, Dan. Would you agree with that?
I don't know. I still don't know what they're trying to do.
Not given the new information that you have as of today, because we're going to talk about that in a minute. Not given the new information, but given just the information that we had last week, right. I would probably agree. Right?
Yes.
So then he says this, it was a really interesting comment and very honest. Here's the thing. Unless you also have a couple of $1 billion in capital from investors who don't care much that you will lose money for a good long time, you are not a competitor to Zillow and Open Door. They are not your competition. Even if your brokerage launched an iBuyer program using local hard money lenders, flippers, and investors alike, you are not actually a competitor of either of those market makers. The distinction is easy. Do you pay market price? If yes, you're a competitor. If no, you're not a competitor.
But do they pay market price though?
A lot of times they're trying to, and that's why they're having these huge losses, I think. And so he's kind of bringing to light a little bit of the business practice that's happening. And Paige, I'm going to get to your comment in just a bit too when we cover that.
So I had an interesting story just along these lines, and it's a quick one, but I had a friend go, oh my God, because I brought up this, or they watched the show, and it's actually a friend and a client. We're out looking at properties, and they brought up that, oh my God, a friend sold with Zillow or sold to Zillow.
Right.
And then he watched it happen, and it was below market value. And now it wasn't that much. It wasn't like what, Open Door does or whatever, where they buy low and then they do a little flip, but he essentially lost money, and he ended up paying 9% was his fee.
Well, here's the distinction, though. I mean, they're going to have a 9% fee, but if you put a team together of flippers and investors to purchase a property and then flip it quick on the market and put it back, you're not going to pay market value for that. There's no real estate agent that's going to get close to market value. And as a matter of fact, most investors are looking for a 30% after repair market value return.
Right. So how are they? Okay, so this is a play, right? This is no. We pay market value, and then they get such a reputation. Then they start coming in lower, because we've already heard about when you just go and you're curious about your value on Zillow, and then you actually reach out to Zillow about your value and it drops.
Yeah.
So
Michelle Schroeder says, so Zillow has not rolled out the program ever yet. Here they just launched Flex. Now, Flex is an interesting program that we talked about last week, that agents don't have to pay a monthly fee to advertise on Zillow anymore. They only have to pay a percentage of a transaction of a Flex referral when that referral closes. Now, some of the additional information I've gotten since then states that the Zillow Flex referral is also due.
Right.
So it's deeper than just one referral. It's several referrals deep, and that would be interesting to discuss. There's actually a guy that made an amazing comment. I'm going to display his comment a little later in the show, and I'm hoping to have him on the show one day. All right, so Zillow is joining the MLS and changing MLS to IDX feeds. I think that's the other biggest piece of news that they talk about. We hit it a little bit on the market. And one of the things that we saw in a conference call today is that they were looking for ways to not be replaced. And one of the easiest ways for real estate agents to replace Zillow was to do a really good job with their own IDX feed, creating a consumer-facing website with up-to-the-minute data and information, a direct tie to the real estate agent. And if they could do that and then cut Zillow out, well, now they can't, because Zillow is going to be a member of the boards and a member of the National Association of Realtors, which is interesting on several levels. One of those that he goes into, I mean, basically, I just kind of summarized the section there. He says it a lot better, though. I really like his writing style, so you should definitely check out the full article. And then he said, the people running Zillow are not idiots. They're very, very smart, and they know what the consequences of them bringing a brokerage in-house are likely to be. Immediate cutoff from all the data to them, which is what we just talked about, because that's exactly what 99% of the Zatorade crowd is screeching for today. So the natural reaction has to be, so they're going to cut off syndication feed to our $1 billion a year business. What can we do about that? The answer is join the MLS. Get a guaranteed non-discriminatory data feed. The other interesting part that I don't think he covers this part. No, he didn't cover this part. So the other interesting part about them joining an actual real estate broker or actual National Association of Realtors is that we've been barred kind of on Facebook from marketing within zip codes. But I know that is a Zillow lead gen strategy, is that they currently will highlight zip codes and then send leads to those zip codes. So they're going to have to do some major editing on how they market. And I wonder if the same lawsuit that was levied against Facebook for allowing real estate agents to use zip codes as a geographic barrier to market a property will now impact Zillow's own website.
That's because right now they do it with other people's listings.
Right.
So if they did that with their own listings,
they would have to follow the same rules we do.
It would be essentially steering, which we can't do because they're only marketing specific zip codes.
Yeah.
So they can't do that.
Michelle Schroeder said, I am part of that. Just signed a contract for $480. After their split, I will own, I see what she's saying. Probably 480,000. After their split, I will only make 4,300. Yikes.
So that's less than.
So is it worth it? Is it worth it? That's the question. All right. So I want to get back to, I thought I was displaying the article. My bad. I put the article back up here.
Yeah, they had to look at us. We don't want that, right?
Yeah. Sorry. So he gets into some other stuff, cut off their money, screw with the MLS data. His conclusion, though, I thought was pretty powerful. Asking questions, seeking clarification, understanding things, all are wonderful to do when a big change like this is happening. Hell, criticizing Zillow for one thing or another is perfectly normal and good to do when warranted. But for all of our sakes, please don't force Zillow into a corner, because all that will do is make Zillow lose their mind up in here. All that does, that's actually, I am quoting this time, I'm not changing it. All that does is force Zillow to go all out and act a fool and lose their cool.
I think he's pulling from DMX.
How any of that chaos adds a single dollar to anybody's pocket is beyond me.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So let's say Zillow gets a listing and then I get a listing and they both go out to Zillow and they're both direct comps of each other and the same buyers are going to fight for them. Which one's going to get pushed?
So what's going to happen is you're no longer going to be able to or have to enter your own listing into Zillow. You will enter your listing into the IDX feed, and then you will not have a choice any longer whether to display your listing on Zillow's website, just like agents locally have no choice whether or not to display their listing on my website. It's broker reciprocity. You can use my listing. I can use your listing. It all goes to the same search portals, and you search the same search IDX feed. So that's going to be the case from now on. So they don't need your data anymore.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. Who's going to get, I mean, if we have the same exact house next door to one another on the perfect street in the perfect location at the perfect price, and all these buyers want theirs and they want mine, who's going to get the lead?
Oh,
who's going to get the views?
You don't mean same exact, like you don't mean the same 123 Main Street. You mean there's 123 Main Street and 124 Main Street.
Yes.
So I think they're going to offer both, because they're going to be looking to send those leads to the real estate agents, either that they have working for them or to the real estate agents who are paying to be on the website.
So that's essentially, it's good for them either way. They profit both ways. They profit on my listing, and because of the whatever, the flex program or the pay for lead for another person's listing program. And then they also benefit because they sell their own listing.
Mm-hmm. Ryan Bokeros brings up a good point. He says, and once Zillow joins NAR, fellow realtors won't be able to, quote, bash them to consumers in public, etc., a la COE. Code of Ethics.
I'm still going to do that.
Well, what's going to happen is much like I have this show, this series that I've started called Real Estate Fake Estate, where I out the practices that have been played in real estate for a long time that consumers have accepted as normal that shouldn't be, and things that real estate agents say that they shouldn't say. And I think that will be allowed to say, hey, if your company, if your brokerage is representing you in this way, it may be dangerous, or it may be not worth the risk, or it may be. And so if there are things that Zillow is doing that are untoward, or that are just not good for the consumer, I think you very well could out those things. But yes, naming Zillow, just like naming, hey, Remax did this thing that I don't agree with, that's probably going to be frowned upon by the Code of Ethics. Christian Harris said, does Zillow get rid of manually adding listings by agents 3 years ago? They switched to each brokerage needed an IDX agreement to get your own listings on Zillow, which was a big deal being in Seattle, since so many consumers search Zillow here. So I don't know. We can still enter them here. You can still manually enter a listing if you have to here. So it may be different in different markets. Ron Boker says, guarantee that Z will have a paid employee sitting around looking for violations. I'm sure they'll watch the Bearded Minute Real Estate Show.
I hope so.
All right, so let's get into a really interesting one now, and then we'll get into some of the headlines after this one. Well, I'm going to mention another one that I think you should go read on your own. Oh, I also want to, in the comments here, I'm going to paste the links to the articles. So there's one. And then here's the next one that we're going to talk about. As you can see, it says YouTube. You can comment on YouTube and we can display it here. Here's the other one that we're going to talk about right now. So this one is from Jay. Is it Thompson? Yeah, Jay Thompson. This article is in Inman, and it's an opinion piece by Jay. Now, Jay used to work for Zillow. I don't know what his exact title was, but it was something like an agent liaison. So he was like the go-between between Zillow and agents. He was an ambassador, I guess you could say, for Zillow with agents. And there's some real personal stuff that he puts in here that I would have to say that if you contact Jay and make any kind of threats or anything, you're a real dirtbag for doing that. But some people have done that, which I think is stupid. But I'm going to put us up on the screen while we talk about this one too. So early Wednesday morning, I was checking the weather and tide reports. I thought this was funny. Checking the weather and tide reports, preparing to head out for some fishing. No doubt redfish were already trembling in fear. An alert from Facebook Messenger popped up. A friend, long before they started working with Zillow, said, "Morning, friend. I'm sure you're out fishing and winning at retirement, but wanted to say hi and give you a heads up about some news coming out of Zillow this morning." And then that was it. The Zillow iBuyer, they hired their own people, right? So his immediate thought was like, what's going to happen? Are people going to launch a personal attack against me? So he kind of felt like it was coming. And sure enough, a lot of people did. They started texting him stupid stuff. So he has some good points in the article beyond kind of what was going on with him personally. But I thought I'm going to point out some interesting quotes here. Spending over 6 years in Zillow gave me some insight into the people, culture, and mission of Zillow Group. A lot has changed since I left. Sweeping changes in leadership in the C-suite and completely new business model, the explosion of iBuying, ever-changing consumer behavior, demands and expectations, the economy, the pandemic. Despite those changes, many of them being quite significant, there's one thing that hasn't changed. Zillow is laser focused on the obsession on the Zillow's laser focused obsession on the real estate consumer experience. Multiple Zillow execs, both current and former, are on the record saying the consumer is our North Star, and that attitude has not changed. He has it in here that people say that he said Zillow would never. He said, you may say that I said Zillow would never become a brokerage, but at the time we said that Zillow wouldn't become a brokerage. We wouldn't say that Zillow would never become a brokerage because at the time that was not in their business plan. Wait. He said, what I and others at Zillow said was that Zillow had no plans or desire to broker real estate.
But I didn't say never.
Yeah, he didn't say never.
I mean, okay.
Spencer Raskoff, former CEO of Zillow, famously said, we sell ads, not houses. I believe, but I'm not certain, that the phrase first stated March 2013. Please understand, I'm not writing this piece to defend what I said during my employment. I am not trying to defend Raskoff. He's a big boy. He can handle things himself. Certainly don't need me to defend him. I'm also not whining. So let's go down. I'm going to go down a little bit. He said, I'm writing because people have asked for my opinion on the news. He said, to me, bringing agents in-house to handle iBuyer transactions makes complete sense. Making them W-2 employees and not independent contractors makes sense. As a W-2, Zillow can bar those licensed agents from engaging in other real estate activity outside of the scope of their work at Zillow, which is a point that seems to be completely missed by those assuming next week that they're going to drive by Strip Mall and see Zillow Realty office. So that's a really good point. David Fresquez says hi. What's up, David?
Howdy.
That's a really good point that I haven't thought about that I want to get your opinion on too. By having W-2 employees, they essentially just have the licenses and then can tell those W-2 employees to do what they tell them to. They're 9-to-5ers. They're not people that are going out to lead gen and try to.
But they're licensed 9-to-5ers, right?
They are licensed 9-to-5ers, but they're not independent contractors. So they have a strict set of guidelines.
They have to market a certain way. Right. So like with Remax, I have to market a certain way. I can't do this or that. Can't change the balloon, all that stuff. Right.
Right.
But I can still be me and have my haircut and my tattoos and have my thumbs up headshot.
Right.
Zillow would be able to control that if they're not independent contractors and they're W-2'd.
Right.
Okay.
And they can also control like, hey, you have to work in the context of only with our iBuyers. You can't use your real estate license for anything else.
Yeah. That just means to me that is a good thing for real estate agents. Cause I don't know. There's a difference in my opinion between true real estate agents and someone who sells real estate. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like there's agents that go and they work for a big home manufacturer, a home builder, and they probably do really well. They probably sell 50, 60, 80 homes a year.
Right.
But to me, that's also you sit and wait till you're working at Starbucks waiting for someone to walk in and buy your product, Yep.
That's what David said. He said, I set my own schedule, not 9-to-5.
Right. So,
and Jay brings up a good point that this is going to prevent Zillow from poaching a lot of agents because there's a lot of agents that don't want to be W-2 employees.
Right. But what about the model I mentioned where like what Compass did when they just straight up went in and said, here, we'll give you $1 million to have your entire team come over and bring your entire book of business over to us.
Yeah. Can no longer be acquired that way. If you're working for Zillow, you have no book of business to bring.
If you're from Zillow, I'm saying outside, not in Zillow yet. if you're a big brokerage with ABC Realty right now, what about when Zillow goes after them and says, hey, we'll offer you all this and all this free marketing on Zillow. You become a premier agent for free, and we'll give you a signing bonus.
Yep. Paige says, yeah, that's a hard no for me. Please love working. Oh, people love working with me because of my personality, my pink hair, my jeans, etc.
That's how I feel too, because of my pink hair, which is naturally pink.
Yeah. David said, I'm with Redfin and all they do is feed me leads. Stockton Malone.
Get it? Utah Jazz from the 80s and 90s.
That's so jazzy. All right. So back on Jay's article, it was a good point. He said, this is why you don't have to worry about them poaching agents. That's not what they're out to do. And then he said there are people calling for boycotts. He said, my suggestion for those calling for boycotts is simple. Take a refresher class on antitrust laws because apparently you've forgotten everything about them. You think Zillow's unethical? Good news. In a few months, you can file a code of ethics complaint. And there's no way they're going to be able to file a code. I mean, they have so many attorneys. They're going to make sure that everything they're doing is completely 100% ethical, which is good. That's a good thing. Ellis Home Inspections, Patrick Ellis says, business models can change, just like they said, we sell ads, not houses. Right.
Well, that was Spencer Raskoff, though.
What no one seems to be talking about, which actually I do believe that we talked about.
Gosh dang it, he doesn't watch the show.
Watch our show. Somebody tag Jay. He's got to watch our show. At the conclusion of the piece that broke the news lies the nugget. As a part of the change, Zillow will also be changing its back end and switching to an IDX feed, which will allow the data flow to and from the company to each local MLS. This is huge in my opinion, as far as significance, Zillow hiring agents, in-house transactions, blah, blah, blah. Okay. He goes into a little bit of the details about how they got the, well, I should say a vague generalization of how they got the data and how most people don't understand it. Jay also says earlier that when he was I don't know his exact position, but whenever he worked for Zillow, he was in a ton of Facebook groups and mentioned that most of those Facebook groups are just cesspools of whining, which I totally agree with, except for the BMORE contributors group, which all of you need to join if you're not already in the BMORE contributors group. It's a fantastic group that is not a cesspool. We actually talk about some of these articles before we mention them on the show, even post there and take your article submissions. So be sure to go to that group, which is not a cesspool. If you don't do anything else on Facebook, that's probably worth your time if you're an agent.
And you can't whine there. You can't. There you go. If you whine, we just kick you out.
BMORE. But you can whine a little bit. It's okay. Rant. I would like to see some ranting. But
ranting is that's why we started, to really share these articles with rant, really.
Yeah, let's rant. Okay, and the last article I'm going to mention that I would actually like for you guys to go take a look at. It's on the Notorious R.O.B website. It says, my take on Zillow, the Zillow thing. And it's a guest author from Philip Cantrell. It's actually from his LinkedIn pages where he posted it, and the Notorious R.O.B took it from there. Let me bring up the article just so you could see it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because really I want you to kind of pour through it yourself. But it's got some good points that kind of back up what Rob said, but just kind of from a different angle. And it's also a day or two later. I can't remember the date it was published. But it's a pretty well thought out piece that kind of talks about some of the points we've already been talking about, how teams have advocated for self-imposed higher standards. Anyway, it's a good piece. This bold part, he said, my previous warnings included the urgency for holding to your clients with iron talons, and that warning has never been more urgently emphasized than this move makes it. So I thought that was worth the whole read. I would go check that one out too. I will post a link to that article as well. And Laura Walker said, so that means that their listings will be in real time and not lagging. Correct. It will be in the same amount of time as your own realtor website.
Yeah, because it comes from it'll be on the MLS. It'll go, a Zillow listing will get to your buyer as fast as any other listing you input.
Dusty Martin says, I'm here for the wine. That's good. Okay. And
notice there's no H in that wine.
There's no H yet for the audio listeners. I'm going to see if I can find this other comment. And I think this was the overarching feeling of most agents last week who do business with Zillow. I think there's a lot of people that don't do business with Zillow that were like, okay, whatever, we saw this coming. Never gave Zillow a penny. I'm glad I never did. All that stuff, right? And, like Jay Marks was like, no one cares. Do your own business. And that's a good point. I think even Tom Ferry was like, hey, just do your own thing. Why are you whining about Zillow? I think it was on one of his Instagram posts. Someone asked, why are so many people whining about Zillow? And he was like,
totally valid point too. Like, go ahead.
Totally valid. There are people that say, keep your head down, put your blinders on and do your job. And I know what they're saying. They're saying like, ignore the whining, right? However, instead of just ignoring the whining, I think you should keep your head up and do your job. I think you should be very aware of the changes in the business and what's happening on the global scale. And then you could take that information and become a better agent. I've almost found it here. This is epic.
And then you can whine about it to your friends offline. Don't whine about it online.
All right, let me zoom in. I asked Carl Hawthorne if I could share this on our show, and he said yes. Let me get this over here and put it over here. The best comment that summed up how I think everyone was feeling right at the time that the news broke, and right at the time where people were like, literally, he got tagged and said, hey, what do you think of this? Because people knew that he did a lot of business with them. Okay. So
this quote's from a guy who does a lot of business with Zillow.
Yep.
Like currently.
It's one of those romantic relationships that in the back of your mind, she or he is cheating on me, yet they're taking you to lavish gala event and along the way buying you new cars and diamonds and boats. And as the opportunities increase, you forget about the cheating and you just enjoy the ride. And finally, you get all dressed up for the big night. And when you arrive, you see all the other people that he or she has been cheating on you at the event. As you walk in, you find out that it's about him or her from the beginning, and that they've been secretly stealing back some of the items that they gave you for their own pleasure. Everywhere you turn is just another picture of him or her by themselves. All the speeches are now how great they are. You look around and everyone knows you and you know them. We all knew it was happening, but we enjoyed the ride more than the reality of what was created. We cannot blame him or her, as we knew their intentions. They still say they love us and need us. And at the same time, they're telling us, Beth, the consumer, that they can give them a better experience than us.
So I'm not saying where I got this. I'm just saying that this is like if you had someone on, maybe like a live broadcast or something, that says, that I'm the CEO of a company that killed an entire industry. It's kind of like he's saying that.
Yeah, so that was interesting. Dan and I got to attend something today. It was called the Zillow Unlock #3. I guess they've had 2 others. And on this one, they hosted, and I think I could say this publicly because I just saw an ad for it now. They hosted the guy from Netflix.
He's the chief technology officer. I put it in the thing.
And there seems to be a lot of people commenting on that post that are like, oh, you're trying to be like Netflix. I canceled them because of cuties. Valid.
Yeah.
However, it was really interesting during the call. The CEO of Zillow, Rich Burton.
Yep,
Barton. He was asking questions of this Netflix exec, like, when you guys were pulling business from the video rental stores, tell me more about that, right? Those were the kind of questions that he was asking. When you guys saw this huge failure in this other industry, what did y'all do to overcome that failure and to create a niche for you in the marketplace?
How did you pounce?
Yeah. And it was really interesting to hear the phrasing of the questions. It was really interesting to hear the discussion when Zillow is saying to us, guys, we're not against you. We're still for you. We want to help you. But they're also saying to the consumer, we can do it better for you this way. it was really interesting. It was like listening to what is to come and not what is happening.
Well, and what is, yeah, exact. But what is to come in, I'm saying years from now. So to me, I watched a good hour, had it on in the background for a good half an hour. There was never one question or one question about real estate or one tip for real estate agents. It was all more tech focused and how they made this big pivot from literally going and getting, because remember, they did two things. They changed from going and, an industry that you went and rented a thing, took it home, then brought it back. Then they went into order it from us, we'll send it to you and send it back. And then they completely killed that market and went and pivoted, we'll call it pivoted into just online. And it was about, we didn't know if it was going to be streaming. We didn't know if it was going to come from our servers or a local server, or if it was going to be downloaded and then watched. We had no idea. And I'm assuming this is 2012 or 13. But all of these questions were about what, essentially to me, it was a CEO that wants to become more, or of a brand that wants to become more, picking the brain of a CTO of a brand that already did this.
And I know it was all planned and everything they talked about was likely fairly planned and polished.
Sure.
But there were a couple of things that were real cutthroat. The Netflix guy said that I think if you ignore that kind of stuff as a real estate agent, you're doing you and your clients a disservice. If you really believe that you have a better product, Zillow wants to gobble you up, but they don't want to do it in an anti-competitive way. They really believe that their model is going to be better for the consumer and lead to more money for the agents and brokerages in the future. That's
no matter what, they believe their model's better.
That's what they believe. So he made a really interesting comment at the very end where he kind of surmised exactly why he had the Netflix guy on there. And I'm going to paraphrase it because I was writing really fast. He said, basically, if you're against the move that they're making, right? If you're against what is to come in the industry, he said those brokerages are too narrow and are trying to protect short-term revenue and are losing sight of the bigger picture and changes of what is to come and revenue that is bigger on the other side with, however, he said it comes with a short-term sacrifice. And he said the focus of everything they do is on consumer joy.
Right, which goes back to that article about the former Zillow employee. Yeah.
So they believe that there's a better model that they can provide as a data giant. They believe the agents should join with them. And on the other side of that model, the agents will make more revenue. That's top line.
Right.
There is probably more revenue on the other side in going that route. The question is there more net?
Yeah, what's the net? There's more gross, but what's the net, and what can the agent benefit from? Because ultimately, it's going to benefit Zillow.
If there's more revenue, but I'm giving a larger portion of my net to Zillow, then that's not good for me.
Right. And
I want to go consumer. We'll see. David says that Zillow evolution is part of the bigger movement that can't be stopped. And Pete Thorpe said Carl should be a political consultant. Yeah, that's a very good point. Carl actually is going to get back with me on some details. Maybe we can have him on the show in the future. He had a follow-up meeting after this comment with Zillow. So I thought that was interesting. And I'm anxious to hear kind of what they told him. Now, I have one more piece of insider information that may explain some of the move. And this was told to me by someone who wanted to remain anonymous.
Can I do one quote from the thing?
Yeah.
So this is from Ted Sarandos. He's the CTO of Netflix. And this was on the thing. We need your money, but we know you're going to kill us. So that's his quote in regards to the entertainment industry's frenemy relationship with Netflix. So the entertainment industry knows Netflix is coming after you, but we still need your money. So that's agents are like, well, I know you're coming after me, but I still need the leads you provide me.
Right. Yep. So, and the Notorious R.O.B has another article that kind of points to that too. Dusty Martin said, I don't believe for a minute that they think agents and brokerages will make more money. They think their agents and brokerage will make more money, not us, them. Well, they want you to be them. So they would say that's one and the same. And it's revenue, higher revenue. I don't know about the bottom line there. The biggest thing they're looking at is the consumer experience. So if you're an agent and you're not looking at the consumer experience, which I think I've told our agents until I'm blue in the face this year, it's all about the consumer experience. If you're not focusing on that, you're going to lose big time. David said, agents will make less, but quality of life will be, in theory, better.
But I think that goes back to the comment you read where, dude, everything seems awesome. They bought me diamonds. They bought me cars. We went on fancy vacations. But then they did that speech and it was all about them. Wait a second. Yeah. I thought it was part of this.
Yep. All right. So one more bit of insider information, which may explain a bit of the move. Shortly after our show, someone called me and said, Ray, I know this and don't tell anyone. But basically, all the agencies that are involved with the iBuyer program already, right? The ones that I think last week I said, wouldn't this compete directly with those brokerages that they've hired to be part of the iBuyer program? The revenues from that are about 4 times higher than what they thought. So they had a projection. It came in at 4x higher. And so Zillow is now seeing that 4x. And they're like, oh, if it's 4x higher, and if it's busier than we thought, then we can take in-house some of those revenues and make more money from it instead of giving that out to the agencies. So I thought that was really interesting. And that's by someone who knows exactly what is happening. I asked him some additional questions, or her, and they're going to get back with me with some more details regarding how it's working. But I thought that was very interesting. David said benefit, salary, profit sharing. The diamond and the pearls. Yeah, salary and with benefits is what a lot of agents want to make. I would say probably 80% of agents would take a salary over what they're currently making because only 20% of the agents are making the money. Pareto principle, right?
I know.
Now,
there's that thing.
The other thing that this insider said is that those who are hired by Zillow to do this, if they don't have the 70% conversion rate, they're kicked out. Not conversion, meeting rate. If they're not meeting with 70% of the leads that Zillow is sending them, they're fired.
So that's interesting.
He said they say that they're super focused on the consumer experience and attentiveness, and they have to respond really, really fast. Yeah. They have to be on top of it, continued follow-up. Then they have to meet with people that they're sending them, or they get fired.
Because what do they know? They know that agents don't do that. The average agent doesn't do that. The average agent doesn't follow up. The average agent doesn't have an assistant that follows up or checks in or sets up a search.
And that's exactly what led to Zillow being Zillow.
Right. And now we're here.
Foothold. Now we're here. There it is. The beauty of the W2ing the and agent. Yep.
So here's the thing. And I think Zillow knows this or will know this, but it's super easy to become a real estate agent. I mean, it's more difficult in some states than others, but it's very easy to become a real estate agent. Very. I always used to joke, like if I pass the test, anyone can pass the test. But then there's the, standard agents like me, like Ray, where we want to become more. We want to become your guide, your source for all real estate related things. And we want to do that through your customer experience. We want to make you have the best time ever. And we want to make you fall in love with us. At least that's my goal. But I think a lot of agents, once they get their license, then they're like, okay, it was easy to get my license, but it's hard to get business. It's very difficult to get business.
I wonder if they're going to run into the same issue that Purple Bricks did.
Well, it's a different. Purple Bricks started with they started discounting themselves right off the bat. Yeah. And then people realized, well, they're discounting themselves. They discount me and they're taking all my money. So that was a different scenario. I don't know.
They had a problem retaining agents because they would hire the agents and then brokerages would acquire them from Purple Bricks because they could show them how much more money they can make if they weren't W-2'd and salaried.
Right. So I do think, yes. So I agree with that point. But remember, like the difference between agent facing and consumer facing. Purple Bricks struggled with the consumer facing part a little bit. Zillow doesn't. They're the main website that everyone goes to.
Yeah.
They've become a verb. Oh, did you Zillow it? Or just go to Zillow. They've become Xerox. They've become Coke. They've become all these things to the consumer. Now, agents may have a different feeling about it. But again, they don't really care about that. They want to market themselves and brand themselves. And, they've built themselves on that. But they've always, and they've said it, what have we mentioned 10 times today? consumer experience.
That's right.
So they have that going for them that Purple Bricks did not.
Let me get to a couple of the comments. Pete Thorpe said, sounds like a great way to have terrible turnover. Talk about that 70% meeting rate. Or it sounds like a great way to have the agents that are the best and most determined to actually do the conversion. I mean, it made me think, well, maybe my conversion rate requirement should be a little higher, right? David says, you're hired to close and create a positive experience.
Well, Zillow knows that the average agent or below average agent, their conversion rate is horrible. So they know that if they make it 70%, they're going to be winning all day long.
And to David's point, they know that after the conversion that most agents don't have great processes and systems to create a good consumer experience.
Yeah. So even if you
do convert,
right,
are terrible at retaining their clients.
Yeah. Even if you do convert and get in front of them and have a buyer's consult or a listing appointment, you're not going to get the listing or you're not going to convert the buyer.
Melissa Mara says, and that's why a lot of agents do business and quit shortly after being licensed. Ryan Bokrus says, it will be interesting to see what kind of agent decides to go work for them. Will younger people that are used to the freedom and gig economy trade for the benefits and salary?
Yes, that's a great question.
Yeah, it's going to be 26-year-olds. 26-year-olds that are licensed because they just got kicked off of mom and dad's insurance.
No, but he's saying though, but what he's saying, I think what he's saying is, will younger people that are used to the freedom of a gig economy trade that? So they're used to just like, even if they work at Starbucks 3 days a week, they can go Uber for 5 days a week and still go party and still go hang out, and they make a grand a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but they do that because their benefits and stuff are all taken care of by mom and dad. As soon as they have to start paying for themselves, they're going to have to find a real job, and 100% commission ain't going to do it.
I know, but I'm saying they can go do multiple things because it's the gig economy. That's what, you know, and I think there's a lot more, you know, yeah.
David says, just look at Redfin. That's who they were trying to be. Well, go read the, I think 3 articles up that I posted. Notorious R.O.B says that it's imprecise. He thinks that they're trying to be what Open Door was trying to be.
Right. And ultimately they're trying to be what Zillow will be is what they're trying to be, but there's parts of things, but Zillow's trying to do it like no one else does it.
Right. So just one last comment. Did I already put Ryan's comment up there? I think I did.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess you could say final thoughts. What are your final thoughts on the week of Zillow's own brokerage and what you think is going to happen?
Well, I mean, okay. So to me, it's because and I understand like the whining thing, like you're just complaining about Zillow. Zillow's not going to go away. You're just complaining about him. You're like everyone else. So how do we fix it though? Is always my question. Because I'm more of an action guy, not really. I obviously have lots of words. I like to talk, but I also like to put words behind my actions. So what actions do? We can't start a Zillow and go take down Zillow. We can't do that. But what we can do is be better at our own jobs to where, because Ryan said it in our chat, you can never come after me. You can't be me. You cannot ever produce an experience like I produce. I don't care who Zillow is. They're never coming after me, but they may come after chunks of our industry and take a portion that want to have a paid salary. So that's what we do. Ooh, hold on. This is awesome. Ooh, this is kind of cool. Can you guys see the countdown?
Oh, that's neat. Yeah, I can see it. That's to your live link, the reset. Oh, there it is, the bars, and it's back. Interesting.
Yeah. So that's fun that it did that right in my statement that we were going to use for BMORE chops, but we can't. So, because I had to get, but yeah, see Ryan's comment in the chat. So my thing is they can never replace me. They can never replace like a Pixel Properties that built their entire brokerage around the consumer experience. Quick shout out to Pixel Properties whenever they come to California. Sorry, Chris, but they still can come in and start taking listings away from us because they offer a package that I couldn't provide. I can't go offer them this and for 1% or whatever, because, I still need to, it's still my salary that I need to make. You know what I mean? So they can't. That's what I worry about is what can they offer that the average agent or even brokerage can't? That's the unknown that I don't know.
So my final thoughts are I'm excited. I like that they're finally entering the fray directly so that we can see exactly how they service agents on our side of it instead of just the technology side. And I think there are going to be a lot of agents that get kind of kicked out of the industry because of it, because they can't hold a candle to the customer experience that Zillow can provide. And there's going to be a necessary thinning of agents that shouldn't be agents, of people that are paying the money every month and they have a lack of skill, and not just the lack of skill, but a lack of desire to hone their skill sets and to create a better customer experience.
I think that's the most important, the lack of desire. They just want business to come to them. And that's why certain agents they'll get hired by Zillow because they'll get the business, but to hone it and become better at what you do and work tirelessly every week to get better at that. That's lacking in a lot of agents. So I'd be a big fan if those all left. That'd be great.
And I think that's going to be the number one thing or they're going to get acquired by brokerages like, people that pay salaries. I don't know if Redfin totally does that, but the companies that pay salaries to licensed agents, I could see them getting acquired and the industry going that way, which begs the question, like those companies have to make them much better agents than they are currently, especially if they have a 70% meet rate.
Right.
If they do that and they do become better agents, would those agents then stay with the companies? So I think there's a lot to flesh out. I wish, I know Zillow can't do this. I guess they're afraid of competitors, like Keller Williams, Century 21, the big companies that have a lot of money, Remax, from doing what they envision. But I wish they would say, like, here's our vision and what's going to happen to the agent in the future and how we see that happening. But, they have to do these little piecemeal moves and leave people to wonder. And, as long as people wonder and there's uncertainty, people are going to fear for their own job and the short-term revenue, just like he said. And it is a too narrow of a view. If you're boycotting Zillow right now because of all this, it's probably a too narrow of a view. I think you should look at it logically, see if, can you benefit from short-term revenue from Zillow? Yeah. Can you benefit from buying their entire database for a small fee? Yeah. Is Flex right for you? I don't know. A referral on a referral on a referral? That's probably not. But look at the different models, Realtor.com, OpCity, all those, and figure out what works for your bottom line. And if it works, stay in it until it doesn't. And then when it doesn't, you have to be able to shift to something to survive. Did I mention the marathon last week?
No.
I was talking to another broker owner in the area, and he was like, well, what do we do? I was like, look, you got to figure out how to generate leads away from Zillow. You have to figure out how to generate your business away from Zillow and more than you would get from Zillow, because Zillow is also coming after your leads. And if you don't, it's like me telling you tomorrow, hey, go run a marathon. If you've never run a marathon before, then you're going to die, right? It's going to be super hard and you're going to be, But if you started today running just a mile a day, and then next week 2 miles, and then the next week 4 or 5 miles, and you started to progressively start to run a marathon, then in a year from now, if I was like, hey, go run a marathon tomorrow, you'd be like, oh, sure, no problem. And I think that's what we have to do as agents, is we have to learn to run without something supplying you or a bought lead. Then when you can do that and you can provide your own leads, without buying any other leads from any other sources, but you're organically generating leads, then whenever you buy a lead, you just measure the cost and you measure it against the other stuff you're doing and you see what the ROI is. And then you can buy whatever leads from wherever you want, and your business model is not threatened as long as you continue to hone your skills as an agent and master your craft and also generate your own leads. And I think that's the key to long-term success as a real estate agent away from Zillow.
Well, and can I give you one tip? And Ray, if you don't follow him, I think it was, it was over on Instagram because I'm not on Facebook anymore, but it was in his stories. And he said, literally, he was sitting down doing some work and he said, ask me anything. And one of the questions was, I'm a new agent. It's been 6 months. I don't have any business yet. What do you recommend? And this is exactly how I built my business when I was brand new. Call the people you already know. So now take that theory. Let's say you've been in the business for 20 years. Even if you've done one deal a year for 20 years, you have 20 people that you've done deals with that you know. Those are calls you can make right now. And then those 20 people are going to know another 10 people each. And then that expands. And all you're doing is getting on the phone and calling people. You're doing what Zillow thinks we don't do. And you're calling people that maybe don't go on Zillow, or maybe they focus or they search on Zillow, but they don't have an agent, or they don't know an agent. So you can start grassroots this thing, and you can really build a business around it, and then bring them to you, bring them into your sphere, bring them into your consumer experience. and you can really build that way. And I believe if there's more of us true agents that do that, that will, we can't kill Zillow. It'll never happen, but that can fend off the lion for as long as we need.
Well, and just create an area to have a better experience. There are always going to be something more luxurious than Walmart.
But Walmart has a pretty cool experience.
They have a great experience.
On the cheap buy popcorn.
Right. But there's always going to be those other experiences where you walk into the store and you're amazed by the service. All right. So David said they market to consumers. Agents market their listings. Yeah, that's a big problem in the industry. Paige said, fix it. We become the best agents, whatever niche market, and we market ourselves. And we provide that personal touch. And wine for cocktails are always good to provide too. Wine or cocktails. Okay. Pete Thorpe said people routinely overestimate what they can do in 3 to 6 months and underestimate what they can do in 3 to 6 years. They want an easy button. You need to be the local expert over time. Why open houses work? You wait for people to walk in. Yeah. Okay. So speaking of crush it, let's get to a couple of the news stories, and then we will we'll shut it down. No, we went long today talking about Zillow, but we'll break up that and we'll put the links in the description. But let's get to some of these news articles. New home sales crush expectations, but the supply is running out. We've been talking about the supply issues for a long time on our show. Lots of demand is out there for new homes, and the housing market is severely depleted. Sales of new homes jumped to the highest level in 14 years. We talked about that last week. New home sales dropped or a new home supply dropped 3.3 months. So nationally, they consider 6 months of supply to be balanced. So we are definitely leaning towards the seller side. Existing home sales are about the same as supply was down 20%. And here's a quote: housing demand is robust, but supply is not. And this imbalance will eventually harm affordability and hinder ownership opportunities, says Lawrence Yoon, the Realtor's chief economist. To assure broad gains in home ownership, more new homes need to be constructed. And that, again, should add to the to the builder confidence that we have, too. Let me get back on the screen here.
It's turning into a broken record status.
That's right. About 400 fewer homes. The article in CBC reports, according to Realtor.com, that more homes need to be constructed because about 400,000 fewer homes have been listed for sale since the pandemic began. So maybe housing starts would save us, you might say, like the builders all excited about, right? After all,
those starts take a little while to get going. There's months of prep. Yeah. You got to find the land. You got to prep the land. You know, that's months just to get going. So I don't know what that lag is. I've always wondered, is that
they're up 12% annually, but the number of homes under construction is only 1% higher than a year ago, which was 2019. And at that time, we were at 5.5 months of supply. So we're nowhere near where we need to be.
There you go. That's the summation. Because I always wonder what the lag is. Like, they're like, oh, dude, our sentiment is up. We want to build some homes. Okay, they'll be ready in a year and a half. Like,
at least 6 months.
Well, I don't know. I mean, just to get the land. Here in California, you got to buy out a farm, send them to Montana or Idaho somewhere. Then you got to, it's a whole thing.
Paige says, inventory? What inventory? Would that mean there would be homes that are on the market longer than an hour?
By the way, I just did a quick search because we're doing inventory, and all of Rancho Cucamonga, all single family residents active. So single family actives, 147. That's it.
Yeah. There you go.
That's a month-ish of supply. Maybe
inventory is low across the nation, even lower in urban areas. So except for Silicon Valley, San Francisco, that's getting better in those places.
Well, New York is getting worse by the minute. Sorry, Jay. I'm just kidding, buddy. Don't get mad at me.
Yeah. All right. So maybe mortgage demand will save us. Maybe if everyone stops getting a mortgage, maybe that means that supply and balance will return to the market, perhaps.
Well, based on this headline, that's what has happened. Mortgage demand falls nearly 5%, even as interest rates set another record low. Ray, it's looking grim. I shouldn't even read the article, right?
Well, it's looking grim unless you want inventory. Then it looks great, right?
Despite another interest rate drop, Demand for refinancing and purchasing mortgages fell last week, with total mortgage application volume down 4.8% from the previous week, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association. Now, record low mortgage rates are apparently not as impressive as they used to be, likely because rates have been so low for so long.
That's interesting.
It's so now I want us to come back to that sentence. And yes, I'm reading it in a certain way. So the average contract interest rate for 30-year fixed rate mortgage decreased to 3.05% from 3.1% last week. That is the lowest in the 30-year history of the MBA survey. The rate was right around 4% a year ago, which is exactly, if you guys remember, I predicted 4%. Applications to refinance a home still fell 7% for the week, Ray. And and then mortgage applications to purchase home fell 2%. So
that's terrible.
No one's refinancing and no one's buying right now, Ray.
Yeah, there's nothing to save us.
But wait.
Oh.
That 7% fall is still 52% higher than a year ago. And on purchases, new applications to purchase home, that 2% fall is still 22% higher than a year ago.
Wow.
So we can't with the headlines anymore, dude.
If it's sensational, they're going to put it there. So basically, we're still a lot higher than we were last year. So there's going to be no reprieve from people not applying for mortgages because mortgages as a whole are still super high compared to what they were last year.
And also, you got to get away
from a lot of inventory.
You got to get away from the news. My buyers are still getting to escrow. Now, the average agent may not be able to navigate through 22 offers. They may not be able to do that. And I'm not braggy. I'm just saying I'm not the average agent. Sometimes it comes down to price. And if someone has, what I've lost out to a lot is my FHA clients are losing out to either all cash or 50% down, and they go 50 grand above asking and they'll cover the difference. Okay, first of all, that's silly that agent's letting them cover a $50,000 difference. That's a 10% increase that they're hoping for, that they're overpaying on the market if it doesn't appraise. That's crazy to me.
Well, if it's a house they want and there's not any other houses to choose from and they got to be there, you got to do what you got to do.
I get that. I understand that sentiment. But again, 10%, maybe 3 to 5%, but 10% higher is crazy. Anyway, and I'm talking about, by the way, $500,000 homes.
What you're referring to, right? Well, go ahead and get to the end of your point, and then I'll translate.
Well, I just wanted to say that there's still ways that you can navigate through these. FHA, which is a 3.5% down payment. You know, if you have, and I'm talking to the consumers right now, if you have enough, you've saved up enough to get the 3 or 3.5% down. FHA was a little bit tougher program to get accepted. There's still ways to do that. There's still ways that I can make your offer enticing to a seller. You just have to work with the proper agent that knows how to navigate those waters. So it's not all doom and gloom like these articles suggest. It's just not. And then, sorry, Ray, what's your point?
Yeah, it's not all doom and gloom, but it may be gloom and doom.
Right, so but not doom and gloom.
What you're referring to right now is something called supply and demand.
Yes.
And I remember back in econ in college, supply and demand curves. If supply is low and demand remains stable or increases, then prices will rise. But is this actually happening in real estate? Well, Dan, it turns out the old shorts and sandal Hawaiian shirt wearing bearded econ professor was absolutely correct. Home prices rose 4.8% in July, according to the Case-Shiller Index. So strong demand and low rates led to the increase in home prices and home values.
And less supply.
Yep. There were two interesting quotes. Quote, in previous months, we've noted that the trend of accelerating increases, that's 2 ups, accelerating increases in the National Composite Index began in August 2019. That trend was interrupted in May and June as price gains decelerated modestly, but now have resumed. That was Craig Lazar. He's managing director of the global head of index investment strategy at S&P Dow Jones Indices. Obviously, more data would be required before we could say with confidence that any COVID-related deceleration is behind us. And there was another quote. Who said this one? This was Danielle Hale. She's chief economist for Realtor.com. She said that the weekly home price data show that sellers Where's this? Oh, oops, I lost my place. Weekly home price data show that sellers are raising asking prices at a double-digit pace. And surprisingly, eager buyers are willing to give them what they're looking for. Looking forward, we saw asking prices rise by double digits in August, so we expect to see another big jump in next month's release. So they anticipate, based on supply and demand, that prices will continue to increase, which is a great point to talk about with your sellers. Could they price it at the top of the market right now? Absolutely.
Yeah, I worry because I see a lot where you see the house listed and it's active, and then you see that price increase, which means they've gotten offers at that price.
We had a situation in which a property went off the market, and they are increasing it before putting it back on the market because they had so much interest, but they took it off to do some repairs, and now they're increasing it because they felt like they mispriced it when they initially offered.
Yeah. And usually when you misprice it, you know, even if you're high, it's going to correct itself, but you want to make sure that the condition matches. So I don't know. I worry quite a bit about, you know, will it appraise? That's the biggest question, is will it appraise? And right now appraisals, you know, we've had two recent that took 2 weeks to get back, you know, a week and a half, 2 weeks to get back. So not only do you have that will it appraise question, but what if it doesn't appraise? Now you're at the end of your appraisal contingency and you have to negotiate your way around it. So
I think if you're a real estate agent and you're talking to sellers about the potential sell price, and you look at like the past 6 months and you say, hey, this home could sell at 450.
First of all, don't look past the 6 months, look past the 3 months.
Right. But go ahead. Well, you know, appraisers, they're still going to look at 6 months if not a lot has sold. So
yes, yeah.
So you may say this thing should sell at 450. Are you guys okay closing at that price? Yeah. Okay. I think we should price it at 475, 480. Right. And if the acceleration of purchase is happening, then that should work out in your favor. The question is, would it appraise? But then you've already talked to the clients about the potential of appraising at a much lower value and just having to essentially forgive that, unless you're in a situation like you described, Dan, in which the buyer would bring more money.
The buyer covers, right?
That chance that it could happen, but they can't rely on that and make their next move based on that until the appraisers actually come through.
Yeah, expect this, and then if we get that, then we'll negotiate to that and get in your favor.
Tim Macy says no new build inventory and lumber prices up. Great for pre-owned homeowners. That is true. There's far less competition in the new construction market. In that article that we mentioned a little bit earlier, talking about the new home sales, that definitely mentioned the lumber prices being a major factor. And Tim, were you tagged? Because we were definitely talking about you at the beginning of the show. You have to wait till the show's over and go back and watch.
Yeah, no, we weren't. We weren't talking about you. We love you.
Share the show, Tim, and I'll tell you what we said. All right. So what's happening with pending home sales?
They're up.
Oh, good. All right. Next.
Boom. Done. Boom. Dude, let's make that our chop for this week.
Yeah. Boom. Done. It's just one story.
Uh-oh. I just deleted everything. That's okay.
Edit undo.
Wait, I can't do it. Won't undo. Hey, it won't undo.
Just move out of the box. Move out of the box.
Ray, it won't undo.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, there it is. All right. So pending home sales. Wait, am I really reading this or no?
Yeah. Go ahead. You're good.
All right. Pending home sales rose 8.8% in August compared with July, reaching a record high pace, according to the National Association of Realtors survey. Sales were 24.2% higher than, that is crazy, than August 2019. The sales tracks signed contracts on existing homes, not closings. So they are an indicator of closed sales in the coming months. So I thought this was a very good quote. This is from Lawrence Yoon. He's our NAR's chief economist. Tremendously low mortgage rates, below 3%, have again helped pending home sales climb in August. Additionally, the Fed intends to hold short-term Fed funds rates near 0% for the foreseeable future, which should, in the absence of inflationary pressure, keep mortgage rates low, and that will undoubtedly aid home buyers continuing to enter the market. So what I thought, because he goes on, he also noticed that, and I think this is a very pertinent point, he also goes on to mention that pending sales contracts turn into closed sales, but they do not guarantee So just because it's in escrow doesn't mean it's going to be a close. So there may be some adjustments, but
yeah, but usually, especially in a market that is this hot, you would think that more contracts would close in a market like this, where there's limited inventory, than one in which there's tons of inventory to choose from, and then the tiniest little thing on an inspection can send you out.
Right, where you don't want to lose that house. Right. So your request for repairs list is going to be a little less than maybe it was a year or two ago.
That's an interesting aside that he would bring up, though. I mean, usually if he's bringing it up, there's a reason they've seen in the data. So I'd love to know more information about why he stuck that little aside in there.
Yeah. Well, and then he also, so there's a little nugget at the end too, that he says home prices are heating up fast. Low mortgage rates are allowing buyers to secure cheaper mortgages, which is awesome. So even if, Ray, we talk about 5-10% over asking, it's still cheaper in the long run over 30 years because interest rates are at 3%, 2.85, 3.10, or whatever the article says.
Right.
But many may find it harder to make the required down payment. So if you have your 80 grand saved for your 20% on your $400,000 house, but then in the last year, that house is now worth 500 grand. Do you have 100 grand laying around? You know what I mean? So I thought that was a very good point there, but there's a lot of interesting stuff with all the madness that's going on. Do we have Ramsey Stewart? Nice.
Ramsey Stewart. He said, I wish we had new homes to sell in my market. Middle Mo is rough.
Yeah. We already stepped up our game by getting Tim on the show and all of the regular players. And then we get Tim, then we get Ramsey.
Yeah.
This is a good day. I don't care what Zillow's doing now. You know what? We got our best friends on with us. We're fine. Everything's going to be fine.
You might say, Dan, that would increase your confidence as a consumer.
It might. Oh, look.
Consumer confidence posts biggest surge in 17 years.
Can I add to that? During a pandemic.
Yeah. I mean, we have the president to thank, I'm sure. So, the debate. So consumer confidence is a key measure.
There's two ways to say that, by the way. Oh, the debate.
Yeah, there is two ways to say that.
Oh, the debate.
Ramsey said, I love you too, Dan.
Love you too, buddy.
Okay. Consumer confidence. The gauge rose to 101.8, which is the highest level since the start of the pandemic, from August, upwardly revised 86.3. So it's quite a bit higher. Here's a quote. It says, a more favorable view of current business and labor market conditions, coupled with renewed optimism about the short-term outlook, helped spur this month's rebound in confidence, said Lynn Franco, the board's senior director of economic indicators. Consumers also expressed a greater optimism about their short-term financial prospects, which may help keep spending from slowing further in the months ahead, which of course we know is Christmas. So Americans' confidence increased as the daily rate of the new COVID-19 infections dropped from more than 77,000 in mid-July to 33,000 on Monday, based on the data from Johns Hopkins University. And I think people are just kind of tired of the whole COVID thing. I think they're like, you know what? Let's just live with it and figure out a way to function with it and figure out a way to work with it. And let's just stop being fearful of it. And I think we're seeing that a lot.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, I've never been fearful of it. I've just always protected myself and my family from it with whatever, wash your hands. To me, it's always been wash your hands and wear a mask and don't touch gross people. Don't let gross people breathe on you.
Don't touch people, period.
Right.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people that are just kind of I think I said this a long time ago, right when we were first wearing masks and stuff like that. I mentioned some of the Asian countries that wear masks all the time, and it's just kind of part of what they do. And they even have like fashion trends around the mask. And I mentioned how I thought there would be a point where the economy would just kind of keep trucking and people would just learn to live with it.
Yeah. The only thing I wish is the only thing that I think is a huge mistake is that small businesses were forced to close. When you have a small business, like I always bring up the bagel shop. I don't know why, but it's a small business, literally in scope of business and physically. Like literally only one or two people are ever in this shop, but they do a good amount of business. Just not a lot of people are in there all the time. And then they have phone in orders that come and pick up. And I always just wondered, like, why were they shut down? But like literally 1,000 people could walk into Walmart. You know what happens at Walmart, Ray?
Oh. Yeah.
But I never understood that. And I know it comes down to money somewhere. I know it comes down to who's doing what and who's paying someone off. I know it comes down to that crap, but that's the only, and I just don't get it, you know? So I have done my part by I still go to these local places, and I bought a bagel sandwich yesterday for breakfast from a local spot, and people were afraid to go in, but you know, they can still go in, or you can eat outside. And the bagel's still great. It's still amazing. And they took all the precautions. That's always the thing that's confused me, is why did you shut down the people that literally depend on that one thing, but you let the billionaires keep making billions of dollars? I don't get that. Sorry, I went off on a rant, so I don't know what happened.
Listen, Mara said we've adapted, except the small business is still hurting. That's kind of what you're saying. Just don't be gross. It's not what to do. Well, yes, and you have to be protective. Even if you're not gross, you still got to protect yourself. Yeah. Ramsey Stewart said, love for you too, Ray. Just wish you weren't a Razorback fan. Yes, we are kind of rivals right now. All right, so this is I posted this on TikTok a while back.
Yeah, there you go. That's fully protected, by the way.
Yeah, fully protected. This guy going into Walmart. You got to check out the Ray Zorback. That's RAYZORBACK on TikTok, and you'll see that.
You can find me not on TikTok because I deleted the app.
Really? When China was spying on you? Is that what it did it?
Oh, I deleted it a long time ago, but yeah. I had some great videos up too. I feel bad, but
Dan Revolution, right?
Dan Revolution. But now you can just follow me on Instagram. I do all the same fun stuff.
Yep. And you can find me everywhere. RAYZORBACK. So thank you guys for joining the show today. I mean, we went over 30 minutes, but I think we had some good discussion about Zillow. It wasn't sensational. Last week we had a fun time being pretty sensational.
By the way, can I say that I think that's what hinders us, because we are not sensational people. We just want to report what it is and have our opinions on it. But if we were literally like, F Zillow, I'm going to come after your family, and I did some stupid headline, we would probably have millions and millions of views on, you know. My daughters and I always joke about, like, we watch videos and we'll see someone that puts out great art content, and they'll have like 24,000 views. And then you have someone that just does a reaction video and goes, wow, like the try not to say wow challenge.
Yeah. It's so stupid.
And they have 80 million views. It's just stupid. It's backwards.
We appreciate your support. We thank you for watching the show, especially all three of you that have lasted till the very end of this show today. And we love you continuing to comment. And hopefully, if you got some value out of the show, you'll share it. And when you see the BMORE chops come around, that you'll share those too. So
just share it.
Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.